"Stop looking at me like that," Paloma said. "Like what?" I said. I turned my face back to the fire, squinting against the smoke. I couldn't deny that I'd been staring. I watched her all the time. Sometimes I woke and half expected that she would be gone, that she had never come at all, or that she'd been nothing but a shape we had conjured out of our longing for elsewhere. But she had come, pale, like somebody seen through mist. Not the blondness of Crispin or of Elsa, who had hair with gold in it and pink flushed skin. Paloma's hair was so blonde it was nearly grey, like driftwood, as if she'd washed up on the beach instead of sailing here on the Rosalind. Her skin had a bleached straw whiteness, and her eyes were light blue, barely a colour at all. "Like I'm some kind of ghost," Paloma said. She leaned forward to prod the fire. I met her eyes. "Sorry." She swept her hand in the air, brushing away my apology. "It's not your fault. You all do it." She was right. After we'd found the Rosalind, in the few days I'd spent aboard, I'd seen how even the sailors who'd travelled with Paloma for months still paused in their conversations when she passed them on the deck, and followed her movements from the corners of their eyes as they worked on the ship's repairs. Piper and Zoe stared at her too. And since we'd left the ship and headed inland towards New Hobart, I found myself watching her all the time. She was a rumour made flesh. A person from elsewhere. A person without a twin. Both of those ideas were so outlandish that it felt strange, sometimes, to see her picking out fish bones that had stuck between her teeth, or trimming her fingernails with her dagger. These were everyday things, and I wasn't prepared for her to be so real. "We're just curious," I said. "I know," she said, her accent making unfamiliar shapes from the familiar words. She had her own curiosity too. As we spoke, she stared at Piper and Zoe. A short distance from the fire, they were patching a water flask, using a glue that Zoe had made by rendering pine resin over the fire until the whole clearing was sharp, with the stink of pine pitch. Paloma watched as Zoe stretched the leather of the flask flat on the ground, while Piper applied the patch. "When I see those two together," she gestured to Piper and Zoe, "it's like something from a bard's song come to life. An old story, so old you can't be sure it was ever real." We were sitting together on the ground, close to the fire, looking at each other across a gulf that was wider than the miles of sea that lay between here and her homeland. Untwinned and twinned, each of us had stepped out of the other's myth. The first days of our journey inland had been hard. The snow thick on the mountain passes, and turning to grey slush as we descended. Now the Spine Mountains were behind us. The snow had sunk into the ground. The days were starting earlier, and at night the sun refused to go down, lurking for hours on the horizon before sinking beyond the mountains in a red haze. Spring was coming. When I was a child, I used to long for spring. It meant an end to the cold, and to the annual floods that swallowed the low-lying fields. It meant summer was nearly here. There would be swimming in the river with Zack, and long days out of the house and away from the scrutiny of our parents. Now, though, there were so many changes, so quickly. The tanks, the bomb, elsewhere, Paloma, the spring's dawning, wildflowers returning colour to the land, thistles forcing their prickly stalks above the earth, brought with it only fear of what would follow. Paloma was still watching Zoe and Piper. "My grandmother claimed to have seen twins," Paloma said. "In elsewhere?" I asked. "It's not called elsewhere," she snapped. She'd already corrected me several times. I knew that in her homeland they called it the Scattered Islands, but it was hard to adjust a lifetime of habit. "Anyway," she went on, "nobody's had a twin there for hundreds of years, except for way off on some of the Northern Isles."